Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery here. We get together with our distribution partners and our clients most weekday mornings at 8 o'clock Central to talk about strategies, tips, techniques, share success stories, and support each of you. On this morning's training, we're going to have an interesting conversation, and maybe it's closer to trivia than a useful discussion, but I thought it would be interesting to go through. And sometimes we have to challenge the status quo. Sometimes what people think isn't accurate. And we're going to go through 10 different items that if you were to go out and ask people, they would probably tell you the wrong answer, even though they're factually wrong. So as a branch office, which most of you are, you may run into people from time to time that say, hey, this is too good to be true, that you guys are going to go help raise a guaranteed $100,000 for a small business with no minimum credit score necessary to enroll in the credit and funding program, with no minimum time in business, no minimum deposits. That can't be true. It must be a scam. It can't be accurate. Well, that's because there's information that they don't know. And that's why a big part of what you and I need to do is really built around financial literacy. We have to teach people how lending works and teach them about the key is to become qualified on paper. Because if you're qualified on paper, then you get approved. If you're not qualified on paper, you get declined. And so what we do is we have a legal and ethical approach to help every participant become credible enough, qualified for funding. And how does that happen? It's through the 3 C's. Well, what are the 3 C's, as we've talked about before? There's credit. Now, granted, there's business credit versus personal credit, but credit is one of the 3 C's. Collateral is the second. And capacity, sometimes referred to as cash flow, is the third. So this is essentially what you and I do. You and I help imperfect people who are often not qualified on their own to get qualified, to become credible, to get funding. Now, the max isn't 100,000. That's the minimum. We guarantee in writing a minimum of $100,000. And the way that we legally and ethically accomplish that is by helping them become credible on paper by improving their 3 C's as necessary. Further justification of this is that we've had the, I guess, unfortunate but maybe valuable experience for the Federal Trade Commission and the United States Attorney General's office looking at our business model, and both came back with a finding that our program is legal and compliant. So that's a pretty big standard to me. So it frankly doesn't matter what Joe down the street thinks, and honestly, it doesn't matter what you think or what I think. From the highest level of regulators, both on the civil and on the criminal side, our program is proven legal and compliant. So you as a branch, we provide each of you an editable client agreement. When you signed up, we sent you a branch onboarding email. Linked to it was a Word document. If you start making changes to it, I can no longer promise you that it's legal and compliant. Now, of course, you'll change from our information to yours, and you can change pricing. That's irrelevant. But as long as you're following the model that we've created to help people become credible by improving their 3 C's, it is fully compliant. Now, furthermore, you might run into someone that says, oh, this whole branch office thing, that's too good to be true. Again, that's false. It's not too good to be true. When we developed the branch office model, first of all, we don't ask you all as branches to pay your license fee up front. There is a license fee. You all know that. But we say, we don't want you to pay the license fee. Please don't pay the license fee. Instead, come in. You got a 30-day grace period. Let's get trained. Let's get prepared. Let's build your pipeline. And then let's be active, and you'll never need to pay the branch license fee. And active, as you know, is 2 clients a week, 8 clients a month. And so if you're generating right about $12,000 gross income per client, and you're remaining compliant with 8 a month, 12 times 8 is 96,000. Well, in my mind, that's just a rounding error away from your branch generating 100,000 a month. Now, some of you are doing much more than that. Some of you are doing less than that. If you're doing less than that, we need to figure out why, because something's broken. If you're doing more than that, that's great. Keep it up. But, so these are factual statements that if you don't believe, then we need to dig into where the problem is. Now, what we don't want to come up with is a false assumption. Let's take Charles, who's on the call today. Let's say Charles applied and got accepted to Harvard Law School, which I'm sure he could. Just because Charles got accepted to Harvard Law, is that a guarantee that in 3 years he'll have a law degree? No. He's going to have to go to class. He's going to have to do the assignments. He's going to have to participate. Well, it's certainly true. Otherwise, it is too good to be true. But it's certainly true that just because clients enroll through your branch office in the credit and funding program, we can certainly get them $100,000 to start or grow a business, but they're going to need to participate, right? Just like Charles would have to participate in his law school curriculum. While it is true that every branch should be generating at least $100,000 per month in gross income, it's too good to be true to think, oh, I just sign up as a branch and bam, I'll make $1.2 million in the next 12 months. That's not realistic. We're going to have to participate, right? So that's where we want to avoid client or even branch dissatisfaction in assuming that there's no work involved, because that's too good to be true. That sounds like a scam. And I frankly think, not so much on branches, but I think sometimes clients come to us wanting a scam. I think they want something that's too good to be true. They want to sign up and then magically become credible in their 3 C's without participating. That's not realistic. That's not attainable. But what we do with participation of a client in the credit and funding program, or as a branch through the branch office model, we can certainly accomplish these goals. So let me pause for a moment and ask what questions you have here, and then we're going to have a little bit of a fun discussion, and we're going to go through some other facts that people may challenge. And it's kind of a fun discussion. I think you'll find it interesting. But do any of you, and you can respond in the Q&A box, do any of you have a question or concern about the fact that, yes, we can take anyone and help them raise at least $100,000 by working with them to improve their credit, their collateral, and their capacity? Do you believe that? Do you understand that? Or if not, we should discuss it. Now is a great time. Do you all believe, especially if you are a branch, that you could be making $100,000 a month through your branch by being compliant, 2 clients a week, 8 clients a month? Now, this is assuming gross income. We state that, and we know that you don't get paid everything up front, right? So even though the average client is worth right about $12,000 of gross income to your branch, you don't get $12,000 the moment they signed up, right? That's too good to be true. You're paid the refundable setup fee up front. The performance fee is earned afterwards. So does anyone have questions or concerns on these basic concepts before we get into other facts that people may challenge? So not saying that it's easy, There's work that needs to be done. Well, how much work? Well, from the client's perspective, it depends. What we do, you and I, what we do to begin with is we bring the client into the system. So they enroll through your branch in credit and funding. Then we gather data. First, we gather the initial data in phase 1, which would be 4 elements: the agreement, the payment, the soft pull, and the PFS. So that gives us some baseline information about the client. Then we move to phase 2, which is to get them their first tranche of financing through Madison, your funding coordinator. She's on the Zoom right now listening. And then third, after that, then we go into phase 3, which is getting the client ready for business funding. With business funding, we're gathering 6 elements to be able to get the baseline data: 3 months of bank statements, if available, balance sheet, income statement, and business plan. We've had separate trainings, so my goal isn't to get you familiar in detail with that, but that's the process. And so once we have the data, then we're able to look at where they're at, identify what type of funding they best qualify for, see if they do qualify for it, and then if not, we help them improve. And in some cases, and I know you don't like this, Bernard doesn't like this, but some of you don't. I understand none of us want a client to not get approved, but it does happen. In some cases, the client will pursue a type of funding and they don't get approved. That can happen. It does happen. I'm not saying it will happen to every one of your clients, but it certainly can happen because there's no crystal ball. You know, you're not the underwriter for these loans, nor are we. So we can gather data, make educated decisions and recommendations, help clients apply. We don't pretend to be the client. We don't get a power of attorney. We don't pretend to be them. But then ultimately the client gets approved and gets funded, just like Eric and Veronica just saw Khalid just get funded. And in some cases, the client doesn't get an approval, just like Bernard had with one of his clients recently. So if there is a decline, that doesn't mean that you're a failure or I'm a failure or the program's a failure. It just means, you know, we were off somewhere. So we want to go back and look at the client's file, strengthen the file. Well, what do we strengthen? We may need to go back and strengthen one of the 3 C's, but we can always get there. Now, I know we live in a society of what can you do for me today? And everyone wants immediate results. And frankly, you and I want immediate results for our clients, because the sooner that they're funded, the sooner that they pay you a performance fee. But we have to work within reality. And so we find out where the clients are when they first come in, get them their first tranche of capital as they qualify for, and then help them become more credible. Eric and Veronica are remarkably effective at doing this. So for example, yesterday, Eric and Veronica submitted in the first tranche app for one of their clients. I believe it was Michael, if I have the name correct. Let me see. I think it was Michael. Yeah, Michael. And so then Madison, the funding coordinator, ran it this morning already. And Michael got approved for funding. So now Michael will receive that first tranche of funding as soon as tomorrow. I don't know exactly when, but as soon as tomorrow. And then Eric and Veronica are going to work with Michael to reinvest some of that first tranche of funding back into his business, so the business has enough capacity for the larger amount. So it's true that sometimes there's some building to it. It would be too good to be true to think that a client can enroll and they immediately qualify for $5 billion or even $5 million. We may have to stair step it. That happens sometimes. All right, so let's look at your feedback, and then we're going to get down to some other facts that people may challenge. To me, that's the highlight of the call. Ken asks if the client has to be in the United States. No, client doesn't have to be in the United States. And Ron's asking about the collateral. Yeah, so in the credit and funding program, and if you want a good review of what's included in the credit and funding program, I would recommend, I guess, 3 things. Look at the agreement that you have as a branch and what you're promising to do for the client. That'd be a really good starting point. Second, you can go to the guaranteed funding website, go to the credit and funding page, and there's a whole page committed to that, including a training video and a nice description of what's included with the 3C assistance. And then thirdly, if you wanted to know even more, of course, you can go to our YouTube channel, the Business Paralegal YouTube channel, and we have hundreds of hours of additional training. Now that's a little broader than probably what I'd recommend shorthanded. But Ron's question is regarding the collateral. So in the credit and funding program, we provide to every client at no cost collateral, $10,000 of collateral, and they don't pay anything for it. We help them post that on their balance sheet. So now they have collateral for funding, and then we can even help, if they want, we can help them liquidate that collateral and turn it into cash. Now, I think Ron's point is if the client wants and needs more collateral based upon their capital raise goals, then they could certainly get more. And we call that our collateral support program. So they could get more collateral. They would pay for it, but they could get more collateral. You'd make $2,500 every time that you help your client get another portfolio of collateral. And then we can help the client liquidate that $100,000 to turn that into cash. But I'm not sure if I addressed your question, Ron, but that's the topic. All right, so with that being said, let's get down to some other facts that people may challenge that are frankly unrelated to our business, but I'm just interested in kind of drawing a conversation, some contrast to what people may think versus what's true. So, number one, I guess we all know that the sun is larger than the earth, but did you know the sun is so large that you could fit 1 million earths inside it? That's how much bigger the sun is. Again, I know it's not relative to our point, but we're talking about some facts that sound ridiculous. So will clients come to you and say, oh, it sounds ridiculous that you can help anyone grow 100,000 to start or grow a business? It's not. It's completely, it's totally, it's 100% true. What's also true is the sun is about 1 million times bigger. Secondly, did you know that the Pacific Ocean is less salty than the Atlantic Ocean? Third, you're more likely to be killed by a vending machine than you are from a shark bite. I'll just scroll these on up so you can see them. Did you know that a strawberry isn't a berry, but a banana is a berry? Did you know that New York City is further south than Rome, Italy is? Did you know that the closest U.S. state to Africa is actually Maine? Did you know it literally rains diamonds on Saturn and Jupiter? Did you know that Scotland is farther north than Alaska? When you think about the United States, you might think about Los Angeles, California being as far west as you can go. But did you know that actually Reno, Nevada is literally farther west than LA? And then funny enough, did you know that turtles actually can breathe out of their bottoms? So all of this is just maybe funny trivia, but it's factual. And you might not have known that. People may not have known that. Is this factual? Yes, we can help any client raise a minimum of $100,000. If someone disagrees with that, it's only true to the extent that the client's not willing to participate. You and I have the intent, the willingness, the ability to help anyone become credible enough for a minimum of 100,000, and actually could be a lot more by improving their 3 C's. So from your perspective, what do you take away from this? You know, what we do is real. It is real. And so if you'd like to earn an extra 100,000 a month by helping small businesses improve their financial literacy and access a minimum of $100,000, get a hold of us. Either become a branch, or if you are a branch, let's make sure that we're working together so you're successful, that your clients are successful. It requires you to plug in. It requires you to participate. It requires you to engage. But if you do that, we can be successful. So who has questions on the model? What can I do to help any of you with what you need to know to go implement, right? Because it doesn't happen just by signing up. That's too good to be true. We have to implement. We have to execute. We have to participate. If we're a branch, it can be part-time. And I realize a lot of you make a lot of money. So an extra $100,000 a month as a side gig maybe isn't that big of a deal to you. For the average American, it is. The average American doesn't make $100,000 in a year, and your branch should be making it per month. But the only way that you do that is through execution. So we need to be enrolling clients. If you need clients, we can give you signed clients through the client placement program. We talked about that yesterday. If you want to go develop your own, that's even better. Organically generate your own clients. We've had so many different trainings about that, by going out and teaching financial literacy, or posting on Craigslist, or building an affiliate network. The tools and the resources are there, and we can continue to just kind of churn and talk about the same topics. but it's available at your fingertips on the Business Paralegal YouTube channel. We recommend setting monthly goals and then working together to accomplish those. We recommend that each of our branches schedule one-on-one sessions. So each week we can look at where we're at and where we need to go. Part of this is experiential learning. You and I can talk all day long about how to ride a bicycle, but at some point you need to hop up on the bike, pedal. You'll wobble a little bit. You might even skin a knee, but we'll get there. We'll figure it out. And so for those of you that are branches that are not enrolling clients and executing, you won't make $100,000 a month. You're not going to be successful. You've got to execute. All right. So we did have a training on branch infrastructure, and Ken is asking about that. So here's how we run our phones, and you could do yours differently. Now, of course, all of us have our own cell phones, but that's not part of the business. We have our main number, and our main number goes to ruby.com, and you can sign up for ruby.com too, ruby.com. We paid, I don't know, around $6,000 last month, but you can hire ruby.com to answer your phone number. They can do certain tasks for you. They can take messages. They can do warm transfers. That's up to you. So we use ruby.com on our main number coming in. And then we have outbound numbers that we use. So I know some of you will get frustrated. If we call you from an outbound number, you would still want to call back on the main incoming number because we don't answer live the outbound numbers. So you can set up your branch, Ken, and others as you wish, but I would recommend having a main business number and using that for your incoming calls. Ken is also asking about CRMs. Yeah, there's many different client relationship manager softwares. There's Zoho and others. I don't know that there's one specific one more than the other, but you could certainly evaluate it and make a decision. What we use is quite expensive, so I wouldn't recommend it for branches that are early on. But yes, I think probably you'll want to have a CRM. So it's a database where you can keep your clients organized, task history. You send emails out through your CRM, so it's of course branded. And then, speaking of that, those of you that are branches, if you're using Gmail or Yahoo, you probably aren't generating a lot of confidence by the other party. You probably would want to brand yourself as a business. And so for Andrea, for example, she wouldn't want to email using Gmail or Yahoo. She would have maybe AndreaFinancial.com or whatever it is she wants, because it's going to affect how people perceive you, how credible you appear. All right, so Sally's on to a different topic, which is good, about liquidating the trade lines. So the trade lines are the collateral. Let's call it the collateral, which is more accurate. So the collateral, which we provide for free to every client that enrolls in credit and funding, that's free. It's included, $10,000. And so from that, having collateral in the form of accounts receivable is good. It's valuable. It helps get qualified for funding. But from the client's perspective, what we really want to do is help liquidate that collateral to turn that into cash. Well, how would you turn receivables into cash? It's no surprise, right? All of you are business owners. These clients you're working with are business owners. What do you do when your business is owed money? You collect it, right? So normally you'd send an invoice out to them and say, hey, Joe or Susie, please pay your bill. And then if they don't, then you might escalate it. Maybe you make outbound calls, maybe you don't, maybe you send certified mail, maybe you don't. But if they don't pay as agreed, then normally what you would do is you would accelerate it. And that usually falls into one of two categories. Either we could report the debtor to the credit bureaus, so their default reports on their credit, and or we could litigate against them, actually sue them. So we are in the process, as you've heard us talk about, buying a collection agency. This collection agency has been around for over 10 years. It's good size, lots of staff, and so we're working on that. And so once we close on that, then we can be an even greater resource for those of you that need help, or your clients need help collecting that money. So in general, though, to Sally's question, if you have receivables, you want to collect it, and a normal, logical, responsible business owner probably has some experience with that. You invoice the person, you ask them to pay. Hopefully they pay in full or make payment arrangements or make a settlement. If not, then it needs to be escalated, and escalation normally results in either reporting on their credit and or litigation. Hopefully that answered your question, Sally. Who else has questions on the model? Because the model's good and it works, but it does require involvement. Branches don't have to be full-time. Many of you have other things that you do, and that's perfectly fine. It can be a side gig. But when we developed the branch model, we didn't want dabblers. We want individuals, we want professionals like each of you who are actively involved. And we define that as helping at least 2 clients a week after that 30-day grace period. If you're not hitting that, it's okay. Now we kind of have an insurance policy, right? We have the client placement program. So if you're not able to generate clients on your own, of course, we recommend developing a sales team and all that. But separate from that, you always can remain compliant by using our client placement program. If you're not doing that, then of course, they're going to invoice you. They're going to invoice you for the branch license fee, because that's what you promised to pay if you didn't produce 2 clients a week. And I never want people to get upset about that. I mean, we've done what we promised to do. We said, hey, don't pay it. Don't pay it. Perform. After a 30-day grace period, perform. Don't pay it. But if at some point, if you don't perform, then you're responsible for paying it. And I think that's fair. All right. Trevor's asking about factoring. So that's right. So factoring is a mechanism in the financial service industry where you're getting paid in advance. And some factoring is that they're loaning you the money. In some cases, they're actually buying the notes from you. So there's different types of factoring. The factoring that we like best and that we encourage, which we have no financial interest in, is through QuickBooks. Literally, if you open up your QuickBooks, go to the invoice page, in the top left-hand corner, you should see a button that says get paid now. And so QuickBooks are smart people, right? They deal with money, small businesses. And so they're able to facilitate you factoring through any invoice that you have in QuickBooks. You have to be approved, of course, but any invoice you have in QuickBooks, and they front you, they forward you 97 cents on the dollar, Trevor. Now, the downside is you're giving up 3 cents on the dollar, but the good side is you're getting 97 cents on the dollar up front. So just literally go into your QuickBooks, go to the invoice page, and there's a button top left or near the top left corner. If you can't find it, you don't understand it, call QuickBooks because it's through them. Now, QuickBooks truly isn't the bank. WebBank, WEBBANK. WebBank is technically the bank behind it, but they work through QuickBooks. So that factoring is very valuable for those of you that want to get paid sooner rather than waiting. But I'll let you. I'm not a representative of QuickBooks, so I don't want to be responsible for ensuring that I give you 100% accurate and compliant information. So if you want to learn more about that, log into your QuickBooks. The information's there, or call QuickBooks. I don't want to misspeak and mislead anyone, but it's great. I'd recommend at least looking into it. They'll advance you 97 cents on the dollar. And they don't do underwriting on the individual invoices. A lot of times factoring is based upon they want to evaluate the credibility of the debtor. Through QuickBooks/WebBank, they don't underwrite the individual debtors. So that makes it quicker. All right, well, hopefully today we've covered at a high level, we've accomplished. My goal was to just confirm that what we do is completely, totally 100% true, both from helping clients and helping branches be successful. If you're not recognizing success, we need to have a one-on-one call and figure out what's broken so we can fix it, because this is attainable. And then we just went through some random other facts that people might challenge. You know, if you just went out and asked people, well, is Reno, Nevada farther west than LA? Most people would say no, but it is. Some people are wrong. If you ask most people, can turtles breathe through their butts? They would probably say, no, of course not. Well, it's true, they can. So just because someone doesn't know something doesn't mean that they're right. They may be wrong. If someone tells you that our program's too good to be true, they're wrong. We do what we say that we'll do. All right. Well, thanks, everyone. You have a great day. We'll see you back tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.